It is my destiny to share news with you. Now get ready! Hello everyone, ShadowRock here for your Mega News Roundup for the week. We have a wide variety of topics to discuss today, so let's just get into it. Let's kick things off where we always do in the DiVE blog, where it is now time, once again, for DiVE time with producer Yoda. What does this man have in store for us today? Keep in mind the last DiVE time was kind of a bust, didn't really announce much of anything. Well, actually I think he's made up for the last presentation this time because he does have some interesting things to discuss in this DiVE time video. First up are two new systems that are coming to Rockman X DiVE in the future, we don't know when. The first one is going to be completely brand new, the guild system. All we get out of Yoda for this one is that we'll be able to recruit members to our guild, which will allow us to add up our powers, buff each other up, and there are some unique rewards related to guilds as well, but that's all the details we have. Now I know there's some people worried about the guild system that may create toxicity in the X DiVE community, as if we needed more of that, as people pick their teams and like, oh, my team's better. But to be honest, we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that, but I do get the concern. From my limited viewpoint as someone that's still relatively new to gacha mobile games, it seems simple enough, just a way to get even more power by recruiting your friends, which in itself on paper doesn't sound all that bad. So, who wants to join the ShadowRockZX guild? Anyway, the next system we'll be discussing is one that was available in the open beta test they had in 2019, but since then it's been entirely missing in action until today, as producer Yoda is reintroducing the infamous 3 vs 3 PvP mode. As a quick recap, how 3v3 worked in the open beta test was more or less capture the base. The best game I can personally relate that to is Star Wars Battlefront, where your mission is to capture as many command posts as you possibly can. It's a similar concept here. There were 3 different points on the map, which by the way the map was the amusement park stage for Mega Man ZX. A stage we haven't seen in the game proper aside from event stages so far. But yes, that stage did make its debut in the open beta test as part of 3v3. Anyway, yes, there was 3 points on the map. 2 of them at each team's base, and then you had 1 in the center. 3v3 worked on a point system, so in order to score points, you had to stand at one of the bases and turn the color from the other team's color to your color. And as long as the base was your team's color, your team would continue to gather points for it, until you fulfilled the win condition, which is filling the bar completely up. It was definitely a unique mode and concept. It was a mode where deaths don't really matter, you're just trying to keep the other team away from the bases. And yes, when they say 3v3, it isn't like ranked mode where you use 3 characters versus 3 characters. It's actually 6 different players, 3 on each team. And that may have been why the 3v3 mode in the open beta test was so buggy and broken. Now to be fair, that's nothing new for DiVE and definitely for the beta test, but suffice to say, trying to get 6 people together connecting at the same time was definitely a challenge. And even today, even having 1v1 is a challenge for this game apparently. We still got lots of lag issues going on. Now multiply that issue by 3 and you're probably gonna have 3v3 mode. There's also some funny quirks about the beta test, which we did cover on the channel in the form of live streams. We did play that mode quite a bit on there. I just remember some really funny things happening, like if Axel died during his dodge roll, he would respawn T-posing and you can just float across the arena. That was a sight to see. So what I can really say about 3v3 right now is I think it has promise, but man, I hope they ironed out the bugs and the lag issues for this release coming up, or it's going to be a complete disaster.
This server sucks!
It's also worth keeping in mind that the meta for DiVE has evolved immensely since the beta days. Now we got things like Proto Man EXE and a bunch of other super duper powerful characters. There's going to be 6 players on screen. Imagine 6 Proto Man EXEs just step sorting and all that at once. That is going to be cancerous, but it does give support characters like Cinnamon a chance to shine in a PvP environment, since her Ode guy gives a buff to everybody on screen that is in her range. Something to keep in mind too. Anyway, Yoda just says, yeah, it wasn't the beta test, but now it's really happening, and we'll reveal it soon. And that's all we got. The final announcement for the Dive Time video is something very interesting indeed. Rockman X Dive is planning to collaborate with other video game IPs. In this case, at least the first one is going to be an IP from Capcom. That's not Mega Man, obviously. Some of the choices that producer Yoda gives us is Monster Hunter, Resident Evil, Sun, or Commando. Those last two are deep cuts. But you know what he didn't mention? Street Fighter. I mean, for God's sake, Street Fighter was just in Fortnite. Mega Man Unlimited was going to do a Street Fighter crossover along with Ghosts and Goblins and all that. We have a Maverick that is now playable, by the way, that can do Street Fighter moves. Not to mention the other Street Fighter references with the X armors. I mean, I could see it at least. The other one I think it could be is Monster Hunter, because that's also one of the big IPs for Capcom, and actually Capcom Taiwan, the same devs behind Rockman X Dive, also worked on a Monster Hunter mobile game. So this might be their chance to bring both their mobile games together in a way. There's also ones like Dead Rising and Devil May Cry, which have both had Mega Man references in them. In the case of DMC, DMC5 had the Mega Buster as a weapon you could get. But if I had to pick one IP I really like to see, just because I'm a big fanboy for it, it's Ace Attorney, obviously. It might not make the most sense, but hey, I love to see Phoenix Wright and Mega Man X work together, kinda like they did in Project Cross Zone 2. Maybe this time we can get that Ace Attorney's badge firing lasers. But let's back up for a moment here, and let's think about this. Mega Man Star Force still hasn't come to the game, and they're already talking about doing collaborations of other Capcom IPs. You'd think they at least finish the collaborations with the other Mega Man series before they start thinking outside of the Mega Man series. Like dang, did they really run out of ideas? How hard is it to just give us Geostellar and his friends? Now let me just say, I think Star Force will come to the game eventually, but man, their priorities are way out of whack if they're doing other Capcom IPs way before Star Force. That's where I'm like, what the heck guys? I know Star Force is definitely down there in popularity with Legend. We even have made jokes ourselves about how there are only 10 fans in the Mega Man Star Force fanbase. But come on guys! You gotta make those 10 fans happy. Or not. I guess that's fine. Not really. I guess we can deal with the Star Force weapons, and that's it. I wonder if they'll keep us waiting until December for Star Force's 15th anniversary so they can say, hey look, we're celebrating the anniversary. You know what, I could see it. Well, I guess until December then. Which Capcom IP do you want to come to Rockman X Dive? And hey, even outside of that, once they get through with Capcom stuff, is there any third-party IPs you'd like to see come to Dive? Let us know in the comments, I'm interested to hear it. While you're doing that, let's discuss the content coming to Rockman X Dive this week, which doesn't include any of the 3 announcements we talked about before, so this is all new stuff. Well, he's finally here after making his debut as a boss during the Valentine's event. It's Colonel from Mega Man X4, now a playable character. And this time he's not Dive Fest exclusive, nope, he is a permanent, which would make Colonel the first permanent Mega Man X character that's not an alt of another character, which means we're not counting Falcon Armor from last week, since Magma Dragoon in January of 2021. Yep, a whole 3 months. Before Dragoon we had Bit during December, and before Bit it was even a longer stretch because before then we had Sigma, who came out in July of 2020. So 4 new Mega Man X characters that are not alts in the span of about 9 months. That's funny to think about. Why has it been so hard to get new X characters? Because Dive really likes their character alts and their collaborations. Like the upcoming Capcom one, hooray! But seriously, where's Star Force? Talking about Colonel himself then, his intro animation begins with his blinking slash. ending off with our lovingly named Energy Willikers attack before striking a pose. His first skill is Huge Shockwave, which was his desperation move in X4, except now he can use it in midair. When he creates the shockwave, it gets slightly larger as it moves across the screen. But the most interesting thing about Huge Shockwave is one of the passive skills that Colonel has as revealed by the trailer. In PvP, when you hit a player with Huge Shockwave, you have a chance of causing confusion, which I forget if that's a relatively new status or if it's just being introduced with this character. But anyway, confusion disables the auto-aiming ability for the player that you hit, which is going to make it all that more difficult to hit you. That is pretty nice. Now, the disappointing part of Colonel for me is his second skill, Blinking Slash. I get it, it's a nice reference to the actual boss fight, but at the end of the day, it looks too similar to Sigma's own Dash Slash and Proto Man EXE's Step Sword, but especially Sigma's own skill. I would have liked Colonel to have something more unique, like say the Energy Willikers that we saw in the animation, which is actually called the Thunder Attack, but maybe they figured that it would make Colonel too much of a sitting duck since he normally stays still to use the Thunder Attack. But hey, what do you guys think of Colonel's moveset here? Let us know in the comments. Now let's introduce the second part of the upcoming banner, which is the Icicle Fang, another sword type weapon that is based off of Frost Walrus from X4. Well, we didn't get him as a boss in his own stage, but at least we got him in weapon form, I guess. The unique skill for the Icicle Fang is that it inflicts slow on any targets that you hit with it. Other than that, we'll have to wait and see how good it actually is, but man, since Colonel is a bigger guy, just look at that sword range on him. If he gets Saber Mastery, which I think is a possibility, unfortunately I can't confirm right now because for some reason the Japanese Rockman X DiVE account didn't upload a trailer for Colonel, at least not yet as I'm recording this video. But yeah, if he gets Saber Mastery, he's going to be a pretty good Saber user like Sigma. And now we do have a third part to the upcoming banner, which is the Reploid Saber, Replo Saber. It's basically Colonel Saber, but as an A-rank weapon. Nice. Chances are you'll be able to unlock the new Colonel Saber through the upcoming event, which has been revealed as well. This event is going to be interesting actually because it features a story grounded in the X series lore itself, featuring a mysterious incident surrounding Colonel and Iris. Fittingly enough, this stage itself is featured in Spiral Pegasus' stage, aka the Skyver stage from Mega Man X5, which lore enthusiasts will know this was the Repliforce's airbase. By the way, did you know that this stage has been in the game for a little while now? So far, you can only play it in co-op if you're at level 130 or higher, which means not a lot of people have seen it yet, but it is in the game already. Maybe this will be the next story stage when that update comes around. But hey, we'll get to finally show off this stage on stream this Wednesday because I just hit 130 myself. Anyway, only other thing I could say about the stage itself is it looks like we're going to be collecting some data fragment looking things throughout the stage. But collecting things is not exactly a new thing, so whatever. What's really cool is the boss at the end, the big Chungus himself, General from X4. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like he destroys his chair in DiVE. 0 out of 10. Now it's interesting that General is an event stage boss and not a raid boss, because I think General would have been a really good fit for a raid boss just because of how large he is. Although it feels like he's been downsized just a tad for DiVE, probably to fit into the small room here. That said, he is still big because even big guys like Colonel does not even come up to his crotch. Not that they should want to or anything. There's ought to be other surprises in store for us in this upcoming event stage, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, Colonel and Iris just got their own spotlight event recently, but this one takes the holiday out of it, so it ought to be interesting. These characters may be dead in the main timeline, but thanks to DiVE, we get to have little stories like these with these characters still. That is the power of fourth wall breaking, and you know, not being canon. That will do it for our Rockman X DiVE news roundup for the video. So definitely guys, tell us in the comments, what do you think about the upcoming event? Do you think it's going to be interesting? Do you want to know more about the mysterious incident surrounding Colonel and Iris? And how do you think General is going to work? Definitely let us know, and in the meantime, let's move on to all of our other different Mega Man topics we got for you. And hey, would you look at that? We're getting a new Mega Man game in 2021. Okay, I'm sorry, it's not actually a game, it's actually a piece of software. One that we even covered last year on the channel. It's none other than Make Rockman, which has now been officially localized for North America as Making Mega Man Code Legend. Yes, we're getting an English release for this. As announced by Artbook. For the uninitiated, Mega Man is a program that teaches you how to design and code your very own Mega Man game on the block-based visual programming language Scratch. It also uses Artbook's Robo 2.0 accessory as a programmable gyro controller, so you can do things like use motion controls for movements or your Mega Buster or what have you. Making Mega Man also came with some additional mini games based on characters like Dr. Wily. So while not really a game in itself, it is probably the closest you'll get to an official Mega Man maker that actually teaches you some real programming skills. Of course, if you want to make your own Mega Man levels without having to worry about programming, and an easier to understand user interface, I do recommend the fan game Mega Man Maker. But as for Code Legend itself, it seems like a fun little novelty at least. Not going to set the world on fire or anything, but it's there. Making Mega Man Code Legend should launch in North America sometime later this year, but if you want a copy, Artbook is opening a Kickstarter on April 27th, which is just in a few days, but that doesn't mean they're asking for money just to make the product. This is a different kind of Kickstarter, where it's more like a pre-order system. Meaning they're gonna base how many units of Making Mega Man they will produce based on how many people pledge to the Kickstarter. And then you'll get your pre-order that way when it's available. What do you guys think? Is this something you might be interested in picking up? Even though, once again, it leans heavily on the Mega Man 2 nostalgia? Let us know. For me, I think it's definitely cool that they're actually bringing this outside of Japan. That was a shock. Stay tuned to Artbook's Twitter page for more details as it comes. For our next news piece, we have an update on an important topic that we covered previously, concerning the future of the PlayStation 3, PS Vita, and PSP. A while ago, Sony announced that they would be shutting down the ability to purchase new games on the PlayStation 3, Vita, and PSP. You would still have access to the games you already bought, but all you can really do is download and not purchase anything new. As of today, as I record this, Sony just came out with a new statement, essentially reversing their decision. Interestingly enough, the post comes from Jim Ryan, Mr. Who Would Play Old Video Games himself. Let's hear what he has to say. Recently, we notified players that PlayStation Store for PS3 and PS Vita devices was planned to end this summer. Upon further reflection, however, it's clear that we made the wrong decision here. So today I'm happy to say that we will be keeping the PlayStation Store operational for PlayStation 3 and PS Vita devices. PSP Commerce functionality will retire on July 2nd, 2021 as planned. So yes, that means PSP is still going to be affected. But PS3 and Vita are in the clear for now, but we'll get to that. Jim Ryan goes on to write, when we initially came to the decision to end purchasing support for PS3 and PS Vita, it was born out of a number of factors, including commerce support challenges for older devices, and the ability for us to focus more of our resources on newer devices, where a majority of our gamers are playing on. We see now that many of you are incredibly passionate about being able to continue purchasing classic games on PS3 and PS Vita for the foreseeable future. So I'm glad we were able to find a solution to continue operations. I'm sure you were, buddy. I'm glad that we can keep this piece of history alive for gamers to enjoy, while we continue to create cutting-edge new game worlds for PS4, PS5, and the next generation of VR. Thank you for sharing your feedback with us. We're always listening and appreciate the support from our PlayStation community. Now listen, taking this at face value, This is a great development. Yes, Sony is actually listening to what people have to say about this. That's great. That definitely shows that it does pay to raise your voice about these bad decisions when they do happen. Now, you probably never convinced Nintendo to bring back the Wii shop, but that's another can of worms entirely. But yes, for now, hooray, we did it, Reddit! You can still support Mega Man Legends and all the other Mega Man games on there officially. You can still vote with your wallet, which is great. As long as the games are available for purchase, I highly recommend supporting the official release always. Of course, too bad for the PSP. You're still not going to be able to buy games after July 2nd on that platform. Anyways, as happy as I am that Sony is listening, I still have to hit you guys with a reality check. Because listen to the language used in Jim Ryan's statement. He's saying for the foreseeable future. What they're saying is, yes, we're gonna keep it running. For now, trademark, copyright, register. Just because they're keeping it going for now doesn't mean they'll come back next year and say, haha, just kidding guys, we're gonna shut it down now. They are absolutely going to try this again. And it's gonna be up to us once again to say, hey, you better not. It's like the old saying, forgive but never forget. Fool me once, but don't fool me twice. It's sad when you think about it, but that's kind of how our world works right now. When corporations try to get away with bad decisions and shady stuff, it's up to the paying customers to raise their voice and let the issues be known. And this is probably an issue we're going to be fighting Sony on countless times in the coming decades. Yes, today we won the battle, but we haven't won the war for preservation just yet. Remember, there's still the issue with the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 systems. We're calling it the C-bomb. When the internal CMOS battery dies in those systems, for the PlayStation 3, it will make the system forget about all your digital game licenses, and the only way to get them back will be to reconnect to the internet to the PlayStation Store. Because the PlayStation has to keep its own internal clock synced, that way things like trophies and your game licenses can function. But it's kind of silly that your console can be bricked because of trophies. And while it's still going to be functional for the time being, one day it will still shut down. Servers don't last forever, guys. So the C-bomb is still definitely a big issue. Meanwhile, for PS4, when the internal battery dies, you can't even play your disc games on there. And you know, there's two sides to this. One side says, shut up, you can just reconnect to the internet, it's fine. Or shut up, you can just replace the battery in there, it's fine. The issue is though, you need both of those things working in conjunction with each other to keep all your digital games. That means when one or both of those go away, you're screwed. And guess what, guys? As we just found out recently, the PlayStation 5 has the same issue with the internal battery. As far as I know, the disk drive should be fine, but this is definitely going to affect people that bought the $400 digital PS5. Because eventually one day when those servers die and also the battery dies, yeah, you're screwed. Your PS5 is a brick now. Oh, you want to know another thing? While it's not the exact same issue, there is a problem with the new Xboxes, Xbox One and Xbox Series X. Those consoles use DRM to check in to the system to see if you still own your games. There will come a day when you can't check in to the internet anymore and you lose all your games. That's just the way it is. And I'll reiterate again, that's just the risk you take with digital game content. You're not paying for the real game, you're paying for a license. And you only keep that license until the rights holder decides you don't deserve it anymore. And that's how they're gonna get you years down the road when you least suspect it. In the short term, it really doesn't matter. But in the long term, decades down the road, yes, no matter what you do, there's gonna come a time when the only way you're gonna be able to preserve your games is by hacking your consoles, installing jailbreak firmware on there to solve all the C-bomb and the DRM issues with these consoles. Otherwise, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, they can take away your games anytime they feel like. And that is the kind of future that really, really sucks. Especially as the video game industry leans more and more towards digital. Heck, we already have several games that are digital only. You can't just go buy a physical copy of them at the store. And let's not get into the Mario All-Stars thing. Oh god. I mean, that's a prime example of what I'm talking about right there. Hey man, you can't play Mario 35 anymore, but here's Pac-Man. You like Pac-Man, right? What a mess. In conclusion, just keep all that in the back of your head. A good thing has happened today, but it won't stand forever. All we can really do in the meantime is keep making our voices be heard at all times. Don't let the corporations get away with things if we can help it. And keep supporting the developers of these games by supporting the official release. Because a lot of these cases, it's not even the developers' fault for these games getting taken down. Many of the PlayStation Vita developers didn't even get an advance notice that the PS Vita store was going to be closing until the official announcement came out. So keep that in mind too, it's not even just the consumers that are getting screwed over. But anyways, yes, everything's good for now. As a quick update to this, DoesItPlay1 on Twitter has reported that Sony representatives are replying to emails concerning the CMOS battery issue, saying that they are investigating the issue and will get in touch with an update. So once again, that's great news. If they can address that issue, that definitely helps a lot in terms of preservation. And like I've been saying, just keep making your voices heard. They are listening, so take full advantage of that. Let's move on to the next topic, which is talking about preservation once again, so we're not even moving topics technically. But this is actually positive preservation news, because thanks to Hidden Palace's Project Deluge, we have gotten even more awesome Mega Man prototypes. This time for titles that came out on the PlayStation 1 and Sega Saturn. They released some CDI games too, but I don't think there's been a Mega Man game on the CDI. Anyways, here's the titles that we're concerned with for today. We have a Rockman X4 Sega Saturn build dated April 29th, 1997, which is 3 months before the Japanese retail version. This is similar to the sample version of Rockman X4, having some unused graphics and sound. That's about it, but probably worth looking into. We have a Mega Man X6 build dated October 30th, 2001, which is just a review build, so it's pretty much just like the final version. Third is Rockman Battle and Chase, dated January 8th, 1997, which is the first Battle and Chase prototype we've had. Awesome. The community is still digging into this game to see what kind of differences they can find, but so far, we have things like an alternate title screen and unused assets. Then we have a Mega Man Legends build dated May 13th, 1998, which comes a few months before the final US build. But there are no important differences to note so far besides a slightly different title screen. Number 5 is Mega Man Legends 2, dated September 7th, 2000, which is merely another review copy that was dated 5 days before the US release. Nothing much to talk about there again. That's okay however, because I have saved the best for last. And that is the Rockman X5 PlayStation 1 build dated July 28th, 2000. 3 months before the final release. This one has a lot of cool stuff. Placeholder cutscenes drawn in Microsoft Paint. Yes, I'm not kidding, it really is MS Paint. Line illustrations in place of some of the cutscene graphics. Lots of unfinished and unused stuff, including graphics, animations, and we even got an alternate design for Sigma's final form in X5. As if he couldn't look even more menacing, here he is, the Crimson Chin himself. In this alternate version, it's even more easy to tell that he has horns. Remember when we couldn't tell before until recently with DiVE? There's even other oddities that was changed before the final release, like how different buster parts changes the color of X's charge shots. Man, this build is definitely a special one, very much worth documenting and preserving. At one point, I definitely want to play through these beta builds on stream, like the X5 and X8 one, and see what we can find for ourselves. What do you guys think of that? Anyway, if you want to check out these builds for yourself, head on over to the Hidden Palace Zone via the link in the description. Seems like we're doing a real balancing act today because I have to follow up that last awesome announcement with a sad one. The Capcom USA store is shutting down. This is an online store that has been around since the early 2000s and has rebooted itself many a time. The latest reboot was back around the time of Mega Man 11's release, or the whole Capcom is back era as we'll call it. And I remember at the time when the store opened, I was just thinking, man, how cool would it have been if the Capcom USA store brought over some of the exclusive goods from Capcom Japan's eCapcom store. Because my goodness, eCapcom has a ton of stuff. But unfortunately, as the time went on, it became clear that Capcom USA, either for cost reasons or some other reason, had no plans to bring over any of the Japanese stuff. So in the end, we only got like a few Mega Man items, a soundtrack, the headset, a car pedal set, and the thing too is they were all locked behind their point reward system, meaning you had to buy all their Monster Hunter merchandise, which is like 90% of the store, in order to get to the Mega Man stuff. Yeah, not the best. I'm not kidding either. While I'm sure there was some stuff for other franchises in limited quantities, it was definitely 90% Monster Hunter merch. I get it's their biggest franchise, but dang son. So sucks that the store is closing, but I'm not gonna miss it that much either, because at the end of the day, their selection really wasn't the best. Could have been way better. Like I said, if they had just brought over the eCapcom stuff, that would get a lot of people excited, including myself. Because just having those products available in your own region rather than having to import them is a big deal. But maybe they can't do it for one reason or another. I'm not sure how it works. I'm just making suggestions here. For now, we salute the Capcom store. It was nice knowing you. May you be reborn anew with a much better selection of merchandise. And on the topic of merchandise, we'll end things off with some news from Fukkan. First of all, some bad news. The Capcom vs. Osamu Tezuka characters Artbook has been delayed to June of 2021. Not a big deal, but if you are looking forward to it, just keep that in mind. Hopefully this book eventually gets an English release. That would be very nice. Next up, Fukkan has revealed the package design for the Rockman EXE 20th Anniversary Treasure Box. It's a special 20th Anniversary illustration by Mitsuru Ishihara, who worked on the Rockman EXE anime, and also had a small hand in the Star Force anime and the Maverick Hunter X Day of Sigma OVA. We also got some new sample pages for the 25-page one-shot manga titled Blues' Runaway. We have a page featuring Proto Man and Chad, and another featuring Rockman and friends, along with Proto Man looking kind of concerned or something on the bottom. There's no text available, so you just have to infer for yourself what they're actually saying. The next page shows Proto Man being surprised, and Chad looking kind of evil, saying something. And yeah, you can just look at it for yourself and maybe come up with your own dialogue if you want to. The text boxes are there after all. Our last Fukkan related announcement is something that any Rockman EXE fan should appreciate. Fukkan is also reprinting the Rockman EXE manga, and in order to promote that and the 20th Anniversary Treasure Box, they have released a new episode for their voice comic series, where they add voiceovers over some of the manga. In this case, they covered the first volume of Rockman EXE, and a few highlights from the second, third, and fourth volumes. Now keep in mind, none of the voice actors from the Rockman EXE manga make a return here. In terms of actors anyway, this is an entirely new cast. That said, I listened through it and it sounds pretty spot on to the anime more or less, with some slight differences here and there. And yeah, the unfortunate thing is this is all in Japanese, so who knows, maybe a fan out there will make an English translation version of this one day. But for now, you can at least listen to the voices and enjoy them for what it is. I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. Oh, hold up, we got one more Rockman EXE thing to talk about. Well, it's not an announcement or anything, but you may remember that a while back, we talked about Gmode, a developer that is currently in the process of re-releasing several old mobile games. And once again, Gmode has made the call for people to tell them what kind of mobile games they should port to things like the Nintendo Switch, which is where most of these end up on. You know what that means. It's time to hit up that tweet with requests for Rockman-5 Island Adventure, Rockman EXE Phantom of Network, and Rockman EXE Legend of Network, the legendary trio of lost mobile titles. In order to participate, I recommend checking out Protodude's tweet, who gives instructions on what to say. In a nutshell, you want to mention any one of the 3 games in a reply to Gmode's tweet, and the game title has to be in Japanese, which Protodude does provide for you there to copy and paste. And also make sure you mention the publisher, which is Capcom in this case. Now make sure you don't put all 3 in one tweet. Make sure you make multiple tweets with each game in them. That way Gmode can keep track of all the votes. It should be said that while they can take all the suggestions as reference for development, they cannot promise a reprint for these titles either. Still, we literally just got done talking about how important it is to make our voice heard. So definitely go hit up Protodude's tweet and the Gmode tweet and get it done. And don't worry about the Western fans asking for things. They're still going to take that customer interest into account. Let's bring back those games. With that, we are now caught up on all the Mega Man news from the last week. And a bit beyond that too. Guys, once again, thank you so much for watching. And thank you to all of our channel members, including SA class supporter Vint Crystal and GA class supporter Austin Buford. As always, your support is what makes these videos possible. Until the next Rockman X Dive stream on Wednesday, stay tuned to ShadowRockZX for all things Mega Man. And feel free to check out a couple unboxings I did recently of the Fukkan Armor Riobot and the Mega Man Battle Network Mega Man vs. Base statue. Links in the description below. Thank you once again, rock on, and have a great day everyone.